The night shift at Meridian Tower had been vacant for 6 weeks. Every security guard who took the post quit within days, and nobody in the agency asked why anymore. Marcus Reed needed the job anyway. The pay was 40% higher than daylight hours, just enough to cover his daughter's tuition payment before the deadline. He signed the contract without reading the fine print. Somewhere 47 floors above him, the woman who owned the building had never once looked at the name of whoever guarded her lobby after midnight. The marble floor of the lobby gleamed under fluorescent lights that buzzed faintly, a sound Marcus would come to know as intimately as his own breathing. He arrived at 11:45 on his first night, 15 minutes early, wearing the standard-issue uniform that hung slightly loose on his shoulders. The previous guard had been a larger man, apparently. Nobody had bothered to order a replacement that fit. A clipboard waited for him at the front desk, its pages filled with signatures that grew increasingly illegible toward the bottom. The security monitors showed 12 camera feeds, most of them trained on empty corridors and locked doors. Marcus studied them carefully, memorizing the layout of a building he had never entered before tonight. 47 floors of glass and steel, home to investment firms and law offices, and, at the very top, the private suite of Vivian Ashworth, whose name appeared on the building's deed and nowhere else. The day shift supervisor lingered just long enough to hand over the keys. His name was Patterson, a thick-necked man with a clipboard of his own and eyes that never quite met Marcus's face. "Pretty straightforward," Patterson said, already moving toward the elevator. "Walk the first floor every 2 hours. Check the stairwell doors. Log everything in the book. What about the upper floors?" Patterson paused, one hand on the elevator button. "What about them?" The rotation schedule mentioned security checks on floors 30 through 40. "Those are handled by the day team. You just worry about down here." Patterson's finger jabbed the button twice. "And don't go looking for problems that aren't there. Last 3 guys who worked this shift thought they needed to be heroes. They're not here anymore." The elevator doors closed before Marcus could respond. He stood alone in the lobby, surrounded by the kind of silence that only exists in empty buildings after midnight. The security desk was a curved granite structure that probably cost more than his annual salary. He settled into the chair behind it and pulled out his phone to check the time. 11:58. His daughter Zoe had texted him earlier that evening, a photo of her presentation board for the school science fair. She was 12 years old and already smarter than anyone Marcus had ever known. The board was covered in carefully labeled diagrams about water filtration systems, her handwriting neat and precise. "Will you be there tomorrow?" she had written beneath the image. "The judging starts at 3. Marcus typed back a response he hoped was true. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, baby girl." He had been missing things for years now. Basketball games and parent-teacher conferences and Saturday morning cartoons. Ever since Denise passed, every hour of every day had become a calculation. A careful balancing of bills against paychecks, against the relentless forward motion of a child who needed things he could barely afford to provide. He had worked loading docks and warehouse floors and overnight stock rooms, any job that paid enough to keep them in their apartment and food on the table. This security position was supposed to be easier, climate-controlled, a desk instead of a forklift, the kind of work his body could still do when he turned 50. The first few hours passed without incident. Marcus walked the perimeter of the lobby at 1 in the morning, checking each door and window, noting the locations of fire extinguishers and emergency exits. He found the maintenance closet unlocked and secured it. He discovered a freight entrance around the back of the building that wasn't marked on his map and added it to the log in careful handwriting. At 3 in the morning, he made himself a cup of coffee from the machine in the break room. A narrow space with a humming refrigerator and a laminated sign reminding employees to clean up after themselves. Someone had left a newspaper on the table, 3 days old, its headlines already forgotten. Marcus drank his coffee and watched the monitors and waited for the sun to come up. The silence began to feel heavier around 4. Not dangerous, exactly, but present. Like the building itself was holding its breath. Marcus found himself checking the cameras more frequently, scanning for movement in corridors that remained stubbornly empty. The elevator lights showed no activity above the lobby level. The stairwell doors stayed closed. He was just starting to relax when he noticed the first discrepancy. The safety monitoring system occupied 3 screens on the left side of the security desk, displaying real-time data for air quality, electrical loads, and fire suppression status across all 47 floors. Marcus had glanced at them periodically throughout his shift without really understanding what he was seeing. But now, approaching 5 in the morning with nothing else to occupy his attention, he began to study the numbers more carefully. The readings for floors 35 through 42 were wrong. Not dramatically wrong, not the kind of obvious malfunction that would trigger an alarm, just slightly off. The kind of variance that could be dismissed as equipment error or calibration drift. The CO2 levels were reading about 12% higher than the floors immediately above and below. The electrical load showed unusual spikes at regular intervals. The fire suppression system listed a pressure reading that didn't match the pattern anywhere else in the building. Marcus pulled out the maintenance log from the desk drawer, a thick binder filled with inspection reports and service records. He flipped through until he found the section for floors 35 through 42. The pages were signed and dated, initialed by someone named T. Wellbrook, certifying that all systems had been checked and cleared on a weekly basis for the past 3 months, but the signatures looked identical. Every single one. As if someone had signed them all at once, rather than on separate occasions. Marcus photographed the pages with his phone, then turned back to the monitoring screens. He didn't know enough about building systems to understand exactly what he was looking at, but he knew something wasn't right. The numbers should have matched. The signatures should have been different. Someone had either made a serious error or deliberately falsified records that pertained to the safety of everyone who worked in this building. He picked up the desk phone and dialed the emergency maintenance line listed in the security manual. It rang 6 times before someone answered, a woman's voice thick with sleep. Maintenance services. What's the issue? Marcus explained what he had found as clearly as he could, reading off the screen values and the page numbers from the logbook. The woman on the other end was quiet for a long moment. Those floors were inspected last week, she said finally. I'm looking at the work order right now. Everything checked out. The numbers don't match what I'm seeing on the monitors. Then the monitors are probably malfunctioning. It happens in older buildings. The building is 8 years old. Another pause. Look, I appreciate the thoroughness, but we can't send a tech out for a calibration issue at 5 in the morning. Log it in your report, and the day team will follow up. I'm logging it right now. But these readings suggest a potential fire suppression failure across 8 floors of the building. That seems like something that should be addressed before people start showing up to work. The woman's voice cooled noticeably. Sir, are you a certified building engineer? Have you been trained in the interpretation of environmental monitoring systems? No, but then I suggest you stick to your area of expertise and let us stick to ours. We'll send someone by later this week to check the sensors. The line went dead before Marcus could respond. He sat back in his chair and stared at the screens. The numbers hadn't changed. If anything, the CO2 reading on floor 38 had crept up another fraction of a percent since he first noticed it. He thought about Patterson's warning, about the 3 guards who had tried to be heroes and weren't there anymore. He thought about Zoe's presentation and the tuition payment that was due in 9 days, and the stack of bills sitting on his kitchen table that he hadn't been able to look at in weeks. He pulled out his phone and took more photographs. Then he opened the laptop at the security desk and began searching for the email addresses listed in the building's emergency contact directory. The first response came at 6:15 in the morning, just as the gray light of dawn began to filter through the lobby windows. It was from someone named David Chen, a facilities manager whose title suggested he outranked the woman from the maintenance line. The email was brief and professionally dismissive. Thank you for your attention to detail. Our records indicate that all systems on the affected floors were inspected and certified within the past 10 days. Sensor drift is common in buildings of this age and does not constitute an emergency. Please refrain from contacting executive-level personnel about routine maintenance matters. Marcus read the email twice. Then he looked at the building directory again and found the address for Thomas Wellbrook, the man whose signature appeared on every inspection report. He drafted a careful message asking Wellbrook to confirm that he had personally visited floors 35 through 42 on the dates indicated in the logbook. He sent it before he could talk himself out of it. At 7 o'clock, the first office workers began trickling through the lobby, young professionals in expensive suits, clutching coffee cups and phone screens, barely glancing at the security desk as they badged through the turnstiles. Marcus watched them file toward the elevators and wondered how many of them worked on the floors where the numbers didn't match. A young man in maintenance coveralls appeared around 7:30, heading for the service elevator with a toolbox in one hand. Marcus intercepted him before he could disappear. "Hey, quick question. You work on the upper floors?" The technician barely slowed down. "Sometimes." "Why?" "I noticed some readings that looked off last night." "Floors 35 through 42. You know anything about that?" The man stopped walking. His expression shifted from casual irritation to something more guarded. "You're the new night guy. Started yesterday. Word of advice?" The technician leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You're new here. Don't try to act smart. People who make waves in this building don't last long. Just do your job, collect your check, and keep your mouth shut. People who work on those floors deserve to know if there's a problem." "There's no problem." The technician stepped back, his face closing off. "Trust me, you don't want to be the guy who says there is." He disappeared into the service elevator, leaving Marcus alone with a choice he hadn't expected to face on his second night of work. The morning dragged toward 8 o'clock, when Marcus's shift was supposed to end. He made one more circuit of the lobby, checked all the doors, and completed his log entries with the same careful handwriting he'd used throughout the night. He noted the discrepancy in the monitoring system. He noted his calls to the maintenance line and the facilities manager. He noted the technician's response. Then he signed his name at the bottom of the page and closed the book. The day shift guard arrived at 7:55, a young guy named Deshaun who looked barely out of college. He greeted Marcus with a nod and a half-smile that suggested he'd heard the stories about the night shift position. "Everything quiet?" "Quiet enough." Marcus gathered his things and headed for the door. "Watch the monitors on the left side of the desk. Something's off with the readings on the upper floors." Deshaun glanced at the screens without much interest. "I'll keep an eye on it." Marcus stepped out into the morning air and felt the weight of the building behind him like a hand on his shoulder. He had 9 hours before his next shift. Time to sleep, if he could manage it. Time to pick up Zoe from school and help her with her homework and pretend that everything was normal. He pulled out his phone and looked at the emails he had sent. No response from Wellbrook. No follow-up from Chen. The building systems continued their steady display of numbers that nobody seemed interested in checking. His thumb hovered over the draft folder, where he had saved a message addressed to the email listed for Vivian Ashworth. The woman who owned the building. The woman whose office occupied the entire 47th floor, directly above the zone where the readings didn't match. He hadn't sent it yet. Something had stopped him. Some instinct that told him to wait, to think, to be absolutely sure before he put his name on a report that nobody wanted to receive. But as he walked toward the subway station that would take him home to Brooklyn, Marcus found himself thinking about Zoe's presentation, about the careful diagrams she had drawn, the hours of research she had conducted, the way she had explained her water filtration project to him over dinner, with the earnest intensity that reminded him so much of her mother. She had learned to care about things. She had learned that small actions could make a difference. She had learned to pay attention when something wasn't right. He had taught her that. Or Denise had taught both of them, in those years before the cancer took everything they had built together. Now he had to decide whether to live by those lessons or let them go. Marcus didn't sleep well that day. He lay in the narrow bed of his apartment and stared at the ceiling fan turning slowly in the humid air and thought about fire suppression systems and falsified signatures and the technician's warning to keep his mouth shut. He thought about the 3 guards before him who had tried to do the right thing and found themselves unemployed. He thought about the tuition payment and the landlord's notice that rent was going up next month, and the way Zoe looked at him when she asked if he would be there for her presentation. At 2 in the afternoon, he gave up on rest and made himself lunch. Rice and beans. The same meal he'd been eating 3 times a week for the past year. Cheap and filling and familiar enough that he didn't have to think about it. He ate standing at the counter, looking out the window at the street below, where kids from the neighborhood were playing basketball on the half-court behind the community center. Zoe came home from school at 3:30, bursting through the door with her backpack slung over one shoulder and her science fair board tucked under her arm. Her face lit up when she saw him. "Daddy, you're home. Told you I'd be here for your presentation. It's not until tomorrow. I just wanted to practice." She set up the board on the kitchen table and launched into her explanation. Pointing at diagrams and citing statistics and using vocabulary words that Marcus was fairly sure he had never heard before the age of 30. He listened and nodded and asked questions in all the right places, watching his daughter's face glow with the particular joy of someone who had found something worth caring about. When she finished, he pulled her into a hug and held on longer than usual. "I'm proud of you, baby girl. Are you okay, Daddy? You seem tired. Just the new job. Different hours. I'll adjust." Zoe looked at him with the perceptive gaze that children develop when they have learned to read their parents' moods. "Is the job good?" Marcus thought about the monitors and the logbook and the email addresses he had saved. "It's complicated. Is it dangerous?" "No, baby, not for me." He kissed the top of her head. "Now help me make dinner. We're having your favorite." They cooked together, side by side in the small kitchen, Zoe chattering about her friends and her teachers and the boy in her class who had asked to be her lab partner. Marcus listened and laughed and felt the weight on his chest lighten just a little. Whatever else was happening, whatever decisions he had to make, this was still true. This was still real. His daughter, alive and brilliant and dreaming of a future he would do anything to give her. After dinner, Zoe retreated to her room to finish homework, and Marcus sat alone in the living room with his laptop open on the coffee table. The email draft was still there, addressed to Vivian Ashworth, the woman whose name appeared on the building's deed and nowhere else. He thought about the numbers on the monitoring screens. He thought about the identical signatures in the logbook. He thought about the technician's warning and the maintenance woman's dismissal and the facilities manager's polite refusal to investigate. He thought about the hundreds of people who walked through that lobby every morning, heading to offices on floors where the fire suppression system might not work if something went wrong. He thought about the 3 guards who had tried to be heroes. They weren't there anymore. Marcus closed his eyes and saw Zoe's face, bright with excitement as she explained her water filtration project. She had spent weeks researching how to remove contaminants from drinking water. She had learned about systems and processes and the importance of doing things correctly. She had learned that cutting corners could hurt people who never knew they were in danger. He opened his eyes and began to type. The email to Vivian Ashworth was 3 paragraphs long. Marcus attached the photographs he had taken of the monitoring screens and the logbook signatures. He explained what he had found, what he had reported, and what responses he had received. He did not editorialize or accuse. He simply presented the facts as he understood them and asked for someone with authority to investigate. Then he entered his full name, his phone number, and his employee ID at the bottom of the message, and he pressed send. The night shift passed slowly after that. Marcus walked his rounds and checked his doors and watched the monitors with a focus that bordered on obsessive. The numbers on floors 35 through 42 remained unchanged. No alarms sounded. No emergencies occurred. At 7 in the morning, he handed the desk over to Deshawn and walked out into another gray sunrise, wondering if anyone had read his email yet. At 9:15, his phone rang. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Reed?" "This is Patricia Vance, executive assistant to Miss Ashworth." "Please hold." Marcus stopped walking in the middle of the sidewalk. A man in a business suit brushed past him with an irritated glance. Then a new voice came on the line, clear and composed, with the particular tone of someone who was used to being listened to. "Mr. Reed, this is Vivian Ashworth. I received your email." Marcus's heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. "Thank you for calling, ma'am. I've just spent the last hour reviewing the documentation you provided. I've also had a conversation with my facilities team." A pause. "They insist there's nothing wrong with those floors. They tell me the monitoring system is malfunctioning and that the inspection logs are in order. With respect, ma'am, I saw what I saw. The signatures are identical. The numbers don't match anything else in the building. Someone is either making serious errors or falsifying records. That's a significant accusation. I understand that. I also understand that my job is probably over after this conversation. But those floors are directly below your office. If there's a fire suppression failure, you're in the affected zone." Silence on the other end. Marcus could hear his own breathing, too loud in his ears. He waited. "Mr. Reed, where do you live?" The question surprised him. "Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy. I'm going to send a car for you." "I'd like to continue this conversation in person." An hour later, Marcus stood outside his building watching a black sedan pull up to the curb. The driver was a middle-aged woman in a crisp uniform who opened the rear door without comment. Marcus climbed in and found himself on leather seats that were probably worth more than his monthly rent. The drive to his neighborhood took 35 minutes in morning traffic. The sedan pulled up in front of a modest brick building, 3 stories tall, with laundry hanging from fire escapes and children playing on the front steps. Marcus saw Vivian Ashworth step out of a second vehicle that had arrived moments before, her designer heels looking profoundly out of place on the cracked concrete of the sidewalk. She was younger than he expected. Mid-40s, maybe, with sharp features and graying hair pulled back in a simple style that probably cost more than his car. Her suit was dark and tailored, and she wore no jewelry except for a simple watch. She looked at Marcus's building with an expression he couldn't quite read. "This is where you live?" "Yes, ma'am." "Apartment number?" 3B. "But my daughter's at school right now. It's just us." Vivian nodded slowly. "I didn't come here to fire you, Mr. Reed. I came here because I read your email 3 times this morning, and I kept getting stuck on one detail." "What detail?" "You put your real name on it. Your phone number, your employee ID." She turned to face him directly. "Do you know how many anonymous complaints I receive about my buildings every year? Dozens. Most of them are nonsense. Some of them might be legitimate, but nobody ever signs their name. Nobody ever makes themselves accountable for what they're reporting." Marcus met her gaze without flinching. "I wasn't trying to cause trouble, ma'am. I was trying to do my job. By going over the heads of your supervisors and contacting the building's owner directly, by making sure someone with the authority to act actually saw the information." He paused. "The maintenance line hung up on me. The facilities manager told me to mind my own business. The day technician suggested I keep my mouth shut if I wanted to keep my job. What was I supposed to do? Watch people walk into a building where the fire systems might not work and pretend I didn't notice?" A door opened behind them. Zoe appeared on the front steps, her backpack slung over her shoulder, her science fair board tucked under one arm. She must have come home early for some reason. She stopped short when she saw the unfamiliar car and the woman in the expensive suit standing next to her father. "Daddy? What's going on?" Marcus felt something in his chest tighten. "It's okay, baby girl. This is someone from my work." Zoe's eyes moved from Marcus to Vivian and back again. Her chin lifted slightly, a gesture Marcus recognized from her mother. "Are you trying to fire my dad? Because he's the best security guard you'll ever have. He notices everything." He stays awake all night to make sure people are safe. He always does the right thing, even when it's hard. Vivian's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. Something moved behind her eyes that might have been recognition. Your father sent me an email last night about a problem in my building, a problem that my own staff missed or ignored. I came here to thank him for his honesty. Zoe looked skeptical. Really? Really? Vivian's attention returned to Marcus. Mr. Reed, I spent this morning ordering an independent inspection of floors 35 through 42. The preliminary findings suggest that your concerns were justified. The fire suppression system has been operating at reduced capacity for at least 2 months. The inspection logs were falsified. Marcus felt the words land like stones in still water. What happens now? Now I have a building full of people who came very close to being in serious danger, and a facilities team that either knew about it or should have known. I also have a security guard on his second night of work who cared enough to put his job on the line for people he's never met. She paused. I'd like to offer you a position, a real one, head of building safety, with full authority to investigate and report issues directly to me. Marcus stared at her. Ma'am, I'm not qualified for that kind of job. You're more qualified than anyone currently on my payroll. You paid attention when no one else did. You documented what you found. You refused to be intimidated into silence. Her gaze was steady. Those are the only qualifications that matter. The hours. I have a daughter. I can't work nights anymore. Standard business hours. Benefits. A salary that reflects the responsibility of the position. Marcus looked at Zoe, who was watching the exchange with wide eyes. He thought about the tuition payment and the rent increase and the stack of bills on the kitchen table. He thought about all the nights he had missed, all the presentations and games and bedtime stories that had been sacrificed to jobs that never quite paid enough. I need to think about it, he said finally. Vivian nodded, as if she had expected nothing less. Take the time you need. But Mr. Reed? Most people in your position would have said yes immediately. The fact that you're considering what this means for your family tells me I made the right choice. She turned and walked back to her car, leaving Marcus and Zoe alone on the front steps of their building. The sedan pulled away, disappearing into traffic, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. Daddy, Zoe said finally, are we going to be okay? Marcus put his arm around her shoulders and held her close. Yeah, baby girl, I think we might be. The transition was not smooth. Marcus started his new position on a Monday, walking into the same building where he had worked the night shift, now wearing a suit that Vivian's assistant had helped him select, and carrying a badge that granted access to every floor. The people who had dismissed his concerns 3 weeks earlier now found themselves reporting to him. Their resentment was palpable but rarely spoken aloud. David Chen, the facilities manager who had told Marcus to mind his own business, submitted his resignation the day after Marcus was announced as head of building safety. 2 members of the maintenance team followed him out the door. The technician who had warned Marcus to keep his mouth shut was terminated after an investigation revealed his role in falsifying the inspection logs. Marcus spent his first month reviewing every safety system in the building, floor by floor, document by document. He found smaller issues that had been overlooked, minor problems that could have become major ones. He documented everything and reported directly to Vivian, who read each summary with the same focused attention she had given to his original email. Some of the remaining staff resented him. They avoided eye contact in the hallways and fell silent when he entered break rooms. A few made comments, just loud enough to be heard, about outsiders who didn't know their place, about people who got promoted for causing trouble. Marcus let the words wash over him without response. He had learned long ago that some battles weren't worth fighting with fists, that the best response to contempt was simply to do the job well and let the results speak for themselves. Vivian, for her part, proved to be an unexpected ally. She showed up at building inspections unannounced, asking questions that demonstrated she had actually read the reports Marcus submitted. She defended his decisions in meetings with executives who questioned why a former security guard was now directing safety protocols for a 47-story building. She never apologized for the system that had nearly failed, but she took visible steps to change it. The fire suppression system on floors 35 through 42 was completely replaced. New protocols were established for independent verification of all safety inspections. The night shift position was restructured to include proper training, better pay, and clear reporting channels that bypassed the facility's management team entirely. Marcus watched these changes take shape with a mixture of pride and exhaustion. Each small victory was hard-won. Each reform met with resistance from people who preferred the old ways of doing things. But the building was safer now. The people who worked there were protected in ways they would never know about. And every evening, Marcus went home to an apartment where his daughter was waiting. 6 months after his promotion, Zoe won 3rd place in her school's science fair. Marcus was there when they announced the results, standing in the back of the gymnasium with his phone silenced and his attention fully focused on the stage where his daughter stood clutching her ribbon. Her smile, when she found him in the crowd, was worth every difficult conversation and every sleepless night. That evening, they walked home together through streets that were just beginning to glow with the first lights of dusk. Zoe talked about her project and her teachers and the summer program she wanted to apply to. A science camp at a nearby university that offered scholarships for students from low-income families. Marcus listened and nodded and felt something loosen in his chest that had been tight for longer than he could remember. "Daddy," Zoe said as they approached their building, "why did you send that email? The one to the lady who owns the tower?" Marcus considered the question. "Because something wasn't right, and I couldn't pretend I didn't see it. But you could have gotten fired." "Yeah, I could have. So why did you do it?" He stopped walking and turned to face her. The streetlight above them flickered once, then steadied. "Because you're watching me. Every day, whether you know it or not, you're watching how I handle things. What I do when it's hard. What I choose when nobody's looking." He touched her chin gently. "I want you to learn that doing the right thing matters, even when it costs you something. Especially when it costs you something." Zoe was quiet for a moment. Then she slipped her hand into his and squeezed. "I'm proud of you, Daddy. I'm proud of you too, baby girl. Always have been." They walked the rest of the way home in comfortable silence. Father and daughter, two people who had found their way through a system that had never been designed to see them. The building rose behind them, 47 stories of glass and steel, now safer than it had been in years. And somewhere on the top floor, a woman who had built an empire was learning to look past the reports and the numbers to the people whose names had never mattered before. Real value, Marcus had come to understand, didn't live in corner offices or quarterly earnings. It lived in the choices people made when they could just as easily look away, in the courage to speak when silence was easier, in the refusal to let systems that overlooked the invisible continue unchallenged. He unlocked the door to their apartment and held it open for his daughter. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new frustrations, new battles that might or might not be won. But tonight, they were home. Tonight, they were together. And that, in the end, was what mattered most.